Brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
Every kid on the team, good or bad, can be set up to be successful. I don't care if you got to run a drill that only he can do. This young man could only do left-handed layups. Well, then run a left-handed layup drill. You know, everyone needs to leave that gym with the sense of, you know what, I had fun today. I want to come back. So, and when they go home, they're not complaining to mom and dad that, you know, oh, I hate practice. It's boring. It's dumb. It's whatever. Well, they want to walk in that door and they are jacked. You know, I made a layup. I made a free throw. I made a shot. Well, then mom and dad are happy. You know, it doesn't take much to have a kid stop playing when they go home and go, I hate practice. It was boring. I never touched the ball, you know, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden mom goes, well, it's just as convenient for me not to take you to practice. You want to stop playing, Johnny? Okay, that's fine. You're done. They never come back.
Coach Ras Vanderloo is currently in his 8th season as the head boys basketball coach at Sioux City East High School in Sioux City, Iowa. He has spent 28 years coaching basketball, 12 as a head coach and 16 as an assistant coach. Ras is a 5-time District Coach of the Year and the 2017 State 4A Coach of the Year. He is currently 155-30 at East High with 3 state tournament appearances and a state runner-up in 2012, and he is 205-67 overall as a head coach. Besides being the head coach at East, Ras also runs a large youth basketball program with over 650 kids annually attending. The league is currently 27 years old and was started by his father. Ras comes from a large coaching family. His father Rich and brother Jeff, now a Creighton assistant, are both former head coaches at East High in Sioux City. Younger brother John is a former head coach in the conference and currently an assistant coach for Ras. Brother Jim is a former athletic director and coach in the conference and now a school administrator. To top things off, Ras is helping USA Basketball as a youth development regional coordinator. Toss us an assist by leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, or wherever you listen to the show. We'll thank the passer and enter you into a drawing to win an official Hoopheads Podcast t-shirt. Get ready to take some notes as you listen to this episode with Coach Ras Vanderloo from Sioux City East High School in the state of Iowa. Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads Podcast. It's Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel. Tonight we are welcoming to the podcast Ras Vanderloo from Sioux City East High School in Sioux City, Iowa. Ras, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, we are very excited to have you on, get a chance to dig into your basketball journey a little bit, learn a little bit more about all the great things that you have going on in the game there in Iowa. So we're going to start out by talking to you a little bit about your upbringing in the game of basketball and what attracted you to the game when you were a kid.
Well, I tell you what, I grew up in a unique family. 4 boys, myself and 3 brothers and my dad, mom. My dad was a high school basketball coach forever. So we kind of got intertwined in it from early on, attending practices and games and being around the gym forever, all hours of the day and night, year round. Growing up, played basketball, played youth basketball, high school basketball. I was actually more of a football guy than a basketball player. I couldn't shoot, so I played basketball like a football player. But no, our whole family's basketball coaches, so that's kind of how we got entwined in this whole thing, and it's been a lifelong deal.
Yeah, that's very cool. How would you say, one of the things that's interesting, I talked to this someone else on the podcast about this. You think about back when you and I were playing, and I think the football player playing basketball, like the 6'2", 6'3", big man that was a football player, was much more prevalent in the game back 20 or 30 years ago. That kind of player, I don't know if that player exists anymore in high school basketball.
No, I'm 100% with you. You don't see very many of them. You see very few of that stocky football linebacker looking guy, that he's a screener or rebounder. The game has become way more athletic than it was, 20 years ago or so.
Yeah, I think, and let me ask you if you'd agree with this. One of the things that we've talked about with some other coaches is the fact that if you look at your high school team, the players who are maybe players 1 through 4, 1 through 5, are probably of a similar level in terms of skill compared to players 20 or 30 years ago. But to me, it's players number 6 through 12 that have really improved their skill set. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they know how to play the game better, but the skill set of player number 10, 11, or 12 on a high school team today, I think is much more skilled than a player, again, 20 or 30 years ago.
Not even close. I mean, absolutely right. I mean, the quote backups 20 and 30 years ago. I mean, I'll just be honest with them. That's my era. Were not highly skilled basketball players. They weren't great ball handlers. They didn't play above the rim. They weren't shooting from the arc. They were basically kind of the football guy that you kind of threw in there as an athlete and said, hey, guard that guy over there. They weren't integral parts of the game.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can think back to, my time in high school. And like I said, I think there were kids that just were on the team at that point, and they certainly weren't as skilled as the kids that I see now that are filling out the back end of high school rosters. And I think that's a tribute to just the way that kids' upbringing in the game has changed. Nowadays, kids they're going to a trainer, they're playing lots and lots of AAU games. They have access to, I think, better coaching when they were younger. And there's certainly some drawbacks to the current system, which, again, I guess I'm a proponent of the system that you probably grew up in and that I grew up in, where you're playing a lot more pickup games and you're playing with different age kids, you're playing with older adults, that forces you to do different things with the game than maybe you would when you're playing in a gym with a referee and fans in the stands and that kind of thing. So it's just interesting the way that the game and the way that kids getting involved in the game has changed over the last 20 or 30 years.
No, I 100% agree. The kids anymore, I mean, I think there's definitely more high-level play going on, especially in that youth league age. But the kids don't want to play pickup games. That's not cool. They want to play real games. They want to have refs and the scoreboard on and the fancy uniforms and all that kind of stuff. It's not, the old day of meeting at the school, back of the school blacktop with a hoop, or down at the YMCA or boys club or church or wherever you're playing, and just picking sides. And whether it's 3-on-3, 4-on-4, or 5-on-5, those days they're few and far between anymore. Everything's got to be a production now in order to get kids excited about it.
Is there any place by you where kids still play outside? Like, is there a local park where you can find a pickup game even if you wanted to?
Very, very few. There's a park with a hoop, but you don't ever see any kids out there.
Yeah, it's the same way around here with us. We just don't see the same number. When I was a kid, I just had this conversation with somebody the other day where, we talked about some of the different parks and playgrounds and places that we would go around the city of Cleveland back when I was in high school and college. And all those places now today, if they're still there at all, they certainly, like to your point, you drive by them and they're empty. There's never anybody out there.
Yeah, there's a local development that we used to play in over the summer. We still play in over the summer once in a while, and I think there's been one time on like probably 30 Saturday mornings that I had a kid come up to them and be like, "Why are you guys playing outside? This is weird." And I was like, "Because it's what we did when we were kids," and they just don't understand it. They have no concept of it at all.
No, I think you're, like I said, it's not cool to go to the playground, the blacktop, or a cement court outside. Everything's got to be a fancy court with markings on it, the 3-point line, and all the cool stuff, or it's not, we're not doing that.
In your opinion, what's the best part of the current system from the perspective of a high school coach?
I think there is more teaching going on of youth kids. The youth basketball world's a $1 billion industry, where kids are getting organized practices, a couple nights a week. They're actually, in a lot of, not all cases, in a lot of cases, they're being taught, like, here's how you box out, here's how you dribble with your left hand. We're doing layups with the lift, with the ball high. Back in the old days, we just kind of threw the ball out there and played. There wasn't a lot of teaching going on. I think the teaching part of it has definitely gotten better, but learning how to play the old school way has gotten worse.
Yeah, I think that goes to, if I had to describe that, I think you would say that the individual skill level of players today is better. So there's more kids that, like you said earlier, that can shoot 3-pointers. There's more kids that can handle the ball in isolation. There's more kids that when you watch them in a workout definitely look more skilled. But I also think that what's missing from the pickup basketball scene is that basketball IQ and that just ability of understanding how to play the game. And that's where I think it's sometimes difficult. And I would imagine that it's occasionally difficult for you as a high school coach making decisions about who makes the team and who gets playing time. For the parent who's spent a lot of money to have their kid go to a trainer or spend a lot of money and time and travel to go and play on the AAU circuit, and now that kid's the last man cut, or he's the 11th or 12th player on the varsity team and doesn't get very many minutes, and yet the parent is sitting there going, wow, my kid is super skilled, and where the coach is saying, yeah, you're skilled, but you don't necessarily understand how to play the game. Do you come across that either with yourself and your program, or maybe through your conversations with other coaches in the area?
100%. That is an excellent point. The skill level, like you said, due to trainers and just tons of AAU games and things like that, the skill level is definitely higher. But kids don't know how to. They don't know how to. In general, they don't know how to play. For instance, if you're playing pickup ball and you're playing against a kid that might be 3 or 4 years older than you and he's bigger and stronger, you have to figure out how to get open. I got to jam him down, pop out, got to come off the screen this way. Now those days are, there's none of that going on. They just, oh gosh, this. Well, that kid doesn't know how to get open because he's never played a pickup game. He's always been taught to drive around chairs or dribble between cones or all that kind of stuff. There's no real play.
Yeah, I think it's learning skills in isolation as opposed to learning them within the context of the game. I know that's one of the things that, as I've sort of gotten into, I started writing a blog maybe 3-4 years ago and looking at articles and things and just doing some research and learning more about what it takes to be a really good coach. And a lot of what I came across really changed my feelings on how kids need to learn the game. And from a coaching standpoint, I think if I really thought about it, how I learned as a player, I didn't learn those skills in isolation. I did a lot of work on my own by myself, but I spent a lot of time playing pickup games. But we know today that learning environment has to be similar to the game environment. When you take those decision-making skills out of your practice sessions, then it makes it very difficult for those skills that you learned, to your point where you talked about dribbling in and out of cones or making a move on a chair. That doesn't necessarily translate into improved performance out on the court. It does increase the skill level, but without the basketball IQ and the ability to make good decisions, then I think that those kids sometimes are lost and don't understand why they're not having as much success as they think they should.
Yeah, the skill level of some of these kids is off the chart, especially some of these younger kids. It's crazy good, but there's still a ton of kids that are robotic when they're out there. Well, my trainer told me I need to stand right here, then I need to go over there. Rather than a flowing game, which basketball is, they become robotic and they can only operate like a bunch of robots out there.
So as a coach, how do you attempt to correct that flaw in a player? What are some of the things that you do, whether it's in a practice or in your off-season work? What do you do to try to get kids that experience that they might have gotten on their own in the past, but now is lacking?
Well, especially in the off-season, simulate a lot of things. Play 3-on-3, play 4-on-4. You play a 5-on-5 game. Every little 5-on-5 group thinks there needs to be a post, there needs to be a point guard, there needs to be 2 wings, like a rule book or something. Bounce the ball out there. You 5 are playing those 5. Figure it out. Play basketball. You're not running set plays. Play basketball. Learn to get open. Learn to drive it. Learn to drive and kick. There's no rules here, guys, and there's no refs. Just play. Make it a flowing deal. We're not holding the ball. We're not slowing it down. We're just playing basketball. Learn.
What's your?
There are no
Go
rules.
ahead.
No,
Yep.
just to take as many rules as possible out of the situation, so kids don't think, well, I'm supposed to pass and screen away. Nope, there's no rules here. Just play.
Yeah, when you force kids to make those kinds of decisions, and I think that's one of the things that people sometimes forget about, especially parents, I think, and kids as they're going to trainers and developing their skills in that way. I think sometimes they forget that basketball is such a dynamic sport, and you really have to be able to make decisions on the fly in order to succeed. And that's one of the things that I think, and let me ask your opinion about this. I'm a big proponent of playing more 3-on-3 when kids are young, as opposed to playing 5-on-5. Like, we have, my daughter's in 3rd grade this year, and we played in a grade 3-4 league this winter simply because it was the only option that was out there. And we played in a full court league with third and fourth grade girls. And, we spent such an inordinate amount of time running between the two top of the keys where,
Yep.
a lot of those girls just don't get the ball unless you're the best dribbler on the team. You probably spend maybe 30 seconds the whole game with the ball in your hands. So what's your thought on, youth 3-on-3 as opposed to 5-on-5? If you could wave that magic wand and set up the system the way that you think it would be best to develop kids.
I think in that younger age you just mentioned, I think up, second, third, and fourth grade, 3-on-3, half court 3-on-3 is learning how to play basketball. There's enough space for movement. The lane's not clogged up by, the big heavy kid down the street who's standing in the middle of the lane. I'm not trying to be rude, but
no, understood. Understood.
We all know that guy.
Absolutely.
But and like you just said with your daughter, if you're a fast kid and have a little bit of skill, you're the MVP of that full court deal like that, because you just get the ball and you go coast to coast and you just run past them and lay it up. There's no skill being taught. It's a track meet more than a basketball game. So get them in a half court, full size half court, play 3-on-3, learn to take the ball off the dribble, learn to screen, learn to give and go. Learn to go back door, all the things that in a 5-on-5 game work, but you've never learned them.
Yeah,
so
and all those skills. Yeah, all those skills are easier to execute in a 3-on-3 setting. They're easier to see from both a playing perspective,
yep.
And if a coach is watching, it's easier for the coach to clearly demonstrate or clearly be able to show, here's where you need to go screen, here's where you need to cut, here's why, and it just keeps everybody involved in the action. Whereas we know in a 5-on-5 setting, a lot of those kids get lost and they just don't get opportunities to get the ball. And you're not going to get better when you don't have the ball in your hand and when you're not being forced to make decisions. In 3-on-3, you spend way more time playing and having interaction as opposed to just running up and down the court between the two tops of the key. So I'm a big fan of 3-on-3. So I'm going to continue to push that through the podcast to see if we can figure out a way to make that happen more across the country.
He's encouraged it so much that I've been doing it. I coach middle school basketball. I've been doing it once a week in practices, and he talked me into it. And ever since I started doing it, my team has actually been playing better. So
if I can't talk my co-host into it, I'm in trouble, Raz.
You're definitely in trouble with that one. I do a lot of I have a lot of contact with Don Showalter. You all know Don, USA basketball legend. He is a huge proponent of 3-on-3 at that young age. It teaches kids how to play, and they're not worried about a specific play or a set. There's a lot of room for movement. Like I said, there's so many things you can learn in 3-on-3, and I think people think, well, no, it's a 5-on-5 game. Correct, it is, but you learn a lot at a young age playing 3-on-3.
Yeah, I heard somebody say, I think it was Joe Harris from our podcast, the father of the recent 3-point champion.
Yep.
And he said that you have to learn to play before you learn plays. And I think that's a great way for
exactly.
if you're a youth coach, that's a great philosophy for you to adopt is, I needed to teach the kids and work with them on just playing the game as opposed to teaching them plays. Because I've been at youth practices where I'm practicing at one end of the gym and another coach is practicing at the other end of the gym, and my kids are working on skill development and trying to get better and playing 3-on-3 or 2-on-2 or other small sided games. And I look down at the other end and coach is spending a half hour on two underneath out of bounds plays. And I think it's a matter of educating people, because there's a lot of great youth coaches out there that, are just parents, that they're volunteering their time and they want to do well, but they just don't often understand and know what it is that they're supposed to do. And that's where I think, what USA basketball is trying to do, with both their youth guidelines and with the coach licensing program. If we could get more people, parents, youth coaches, educated about what the system should look like, then we could start to really make some meaningful changes that would benefit kids, which ultimately is what we want to do.
No, you're 100% right. One of the biggest things that kind of the misconception, I think, in youth basketball is the power brokers of basketball need to spend more time teaching youth basketball coaches than they do teaching youth basketball players. A lot of these coaches, they're awesome. They're volunteers. They're putting in time for nothing, but they're accountants and policemen and radio hosts and whatever during the day. They're not, overeducated in basketball. They might have played in high school, and some of them lucky enough might have been played in college. They've known some drills, but as a whole, they are going like, well, I remember this 2 plays from my old high school team, and then they try to run high school plays with third graders. Keep it simple, and have the people that are for the love of the game teach the youth coaches simple drills. They don't need 5 out of bounds plays. They don't need a 1-3-1 trapping zone. They don't need full court press. They don't need any kind of zone, period. But teach them basic skills of the game, and take your practice and cut it into segments. So every 10 minutes, you're doing offensive skill, you're doing defensive skill, you're doing a team skill, you're doing a shooting skill, teach them that rather than roll out the ball and we're going to scrimmage for 30 minutes and then get a drink and go home.
Yeah, I think parents too, who are volunteer coaches, I think those people are thirsting for knowledge of how to do it better. Because a lot of times if I volunteer, and let's say I volunteer as a soccer coach, which I know nothing about, I might be good with the kids and, I can organize a drill. But if I had somebody that was showing me the way to do things and the way to make sure that I was maximizing it, I would want that information. I think most parent volunteers, if you were to give them some educational opportunities to teach them some of the things that you just described, I think the vast majority of volunteers would be open to it. And a lot of times youth organizations sometimes are hesitant to provide that education because they think that, somebody's already volunteering their time and now we're going to ask them to go and take a class or do something online or get their USA basketball license. And if we do that, we're going to scare them away. And I actually think that it might be the opposite, that if you provided that coach education, that more people would be attracted to it because they would be more confident going into the experience and knowing that they'd have a better shot at giving the kids the kind of experience that would make them fall in love with the game and want to come back and play more. What's your thought on that?
Nope, I'm with you 100%. I think it sounds scary on the outside. Hey, coaches, thanks for coming. Thanks for volunteering your time with these kids. Now I want you to get online and do a coaching authorization, which in this day and age is so important due to the background check and all the things that go with it. It's the world we live in, and I hate to say this, but there are some creepy people out there that don't want coaching any of our kids. So number one, that is a parent that that you have a coach that's had a background check, to me is satisfaction. I'm happy. I'm going, at least I know my son is for 1 hour, hour and a half with that guy who I don't really know. I think he's a good person. Then you go say, besides that, here are some things that you can do. You don't have to do them, but there's some recommendations of a practice plan, of a game plan, of how much offense you should have, how many defense, what defense you should have. Everybody thinks they watch the Celtics play or whomever, the Cleveland Cavs, and they go, God, I've seen this great out of bounds play. Well, you're coaching fourth graders. They're not running the same stuff.
Exactly.
So keep it simple. That stuff on TV is awesome. Looks cool and it works. And those guys are the highest level coaches in the world, but we're not dealing with the same product. So you got to keep things really simple so the kids enjoy it.
Yeah, the Junior NBA website actually has some really good practice plans for different levels, kind of based off the USA basketball guidelines, that they have a set of 12 practices that have different drills and different things on there. And even for me, I know I've gone on there and found a couple things that I had never seen before that I really liked, that I took and incorporated into some of the things that I do, both with my teams that I coach, my kids' teams, and then I'm going to take some of that and incorporate that into the camp program that I do in the summertime. So for any coaches that are out there, if you just go to the Junior NBA website, you can find those practice plans there. And I believe they have 12 different practice plans for 4 different levels. And they're very good. They're solid. So if you're coaching a recreation team, you're probably not going to have more than 12 practices over the course of your season if you're practicing once a week. And so the curriculum's already there, and you've got a great set of drills that you can do with the kids and again, give them a good experience.
And another thing I can throw in there for youth coaches, wherever you're at in the country, reach out to your high school coach. There's not a high school coach anywhere that's not willing to help youth kids. And if they're not willing to help, then they're not a coach. Say, hey, here's the deal. I'm a local businessman, and I don't really have much. Do you have anything you could give me? Anything you'd recommend? Anything you want to see as the varsity coach? Anything you want to happen? 99% of them are going to give them whatever they want. Hey, here's what I think for third grade. Let's just work on dribbling with your right and left hand, keeping your head up. Let's work on layups. Let's teach them the rules of the game. You can't step into the free throw lane when they're shooting a free throw. You can't. Here's over and back. I mean, teach them the rules of the game also. So many kids, like I said, they show up, they roll the ball out, and they're scrimmaging. They wouldn't know what over and back is, or stepping into the lane, or whatever. Find every practice time to teach them a rule. Just if it takes 2 minutes, teach them a rule, teach them a skill. And high school coaches will help you.
Yeah, I think high school coaches are a great resource that are probably underutilized from a youth standpoint. If for nothing else, then just to your point, reach out to them and ask them questions and pick their brain, because those are the guys that they're invested in their community, because obviously they want to have success at their varsity level. And we all know that the connection between the youth program and the varsity program is a key to having long-term success. So let's talk about your league that you run there in Sioux City. I was going to save that for the end, but this seems like kind of a natural transition to jump into that. So let's talk a little bit about it. Your father started it 27 years ago or so, and now you've taken it over. So you talk about sort of the genesis of how your dad got it started, and then what you've been able to do with it and kind of what it looks like today.
Yeah. So like I said, 27 years ago, my dad was a high school coach. We had a local YMCA that kind of ran the only youth league in town. We're right around 100,000 here in Sioux City. We had a good YMCA, but they had, I'm not knocking the YMCA, by the way, but they had some crazy rules at that time for youth basketball. You could only score 2 baskets in a game. You could only, everyone had to, do this, and this, and it was turning people off. They were losing kids. So he said, we're going to start a league out here on our side of town and modify it for the younger kids, but play real basketball. So we started the first year of 4 teams. The second year, we doubled it to 8. By year 5, we had 30. And ever since then, we've been sold out between 65 and 70 teams. We're full, 650 to 700 kids. We provide them practice times. We provide them a game a week. We play 15 weeks, so it's a long season, and we don't advertise. It's been sold out for 23 straight years.
Wow, it's great that you're able to build that. And obviously, when we talked earlier before the podcast, I said it's a testament to what you're doing, that word of mouth is your best advertising. And when people do a good job with the program, then you get kids to come back. And that's really what it boils down to, is if you're doing a good job and the kids are having fun, then they're going to come back for more. And it sounds like that's what you have going. So how do you get your coaches? What's the process that you use to be able to make sure that within your program that your coaches are providing some of the things that we talked about earlier in the podcast?
Couple things we do. So the teams that come from what I would say my side of town, kids that are going to go through the channels up to East High School. I think in our league alone, we've got 23 teams this year that are quote East teams. The rest come from the other side of town, some smaller towns around the community. Like I said, we provide them practice time. My varsity, this is crazy. My varsity staff is huge. I've got between our varsity, JV, and freshmen, I've got 11 assistant coaches.
Wow.
And here's what's amazing, and I'm not lying on this. They're all good. And I know everybody's got great assistant coaches. I know that, but the ones I got are really good. I've got a couple of former head coaches. I got guys on our staff that have taken varsity teams to state. They're really, really good. And so we got probably 6 of them that will attend these practices early in the season. Talk to the coaches, talk to the kids. I go talk to the teams themselves about, anything you want to talk about. You want to talk about practice, you want to talk about games, fundamentals, the game of basketball, our own season, whatever they want to talk about. Just talk about basketball. It's a time in their life. It's an hour of the day where they're not, mom and dad aren't mad at them for not taking the garbage out or eating their green beans, and their teachers aren't mad at them for knocking down the kid on the playground, or they're having fun. So I think that's part of youth basketball is, number one, they got to have fun. If they don't have fun, they don't come back, because a lot of these kids, Fortnite's real easy to play on the couch and no one's on your case. So you got to make it enjoyable. You can't be a free-for-all circus, but you got to make them, You got to set things up to make them successful at times. Every kid on the team, good or bad, can be set up to be successful. I don't care if you got to run a drill that only he can do. This young man could only do left-handed layups. Well, then run a left-handed layup drill. Everyone needs to leave that gym with the sense of, I had fun today. I want to come back. So, and when they go home, they're not complaining to mom and dad that, oh, I hate practice. It's boring. It's dumb. It's whatever. When they want to walk in that door and they are jacked. I made a layup. I made a free throw. I made a shot. Well, then mom and dad are happy. It doesn't take much to have a kid stop playing when they go home and go, I hate practice. It was boring. I never touched the ball, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden mom goes, well, it's just as convenient for me not to take you to practice. You want to stop playing, Johnny? Okay, that's fine. You're done. They never come back.
Yeah,
so
I think that's a huge shame when that happens.
You got to set kids up. Like I said, it can't be a circus atmosphere, but you got to know that, last week in practice, little Steve over there, I don't think he was having fun. But Steve's a great dribbler. Hey, you know what? Let's go. Real quick, we're going to do a dribbling drill. Steve, great job. Great job. Compliment him 100 times. Make him feel good. So when he goes home, he's feeling good. So that's like one of the main things we do. We try to pump kids up, make them feel good, and especially the younger ones. We want them to come back.
And so where do you get where do you get all your coaches from? And obviously your staff goes down and helps the coaches that are coaching those individual teams. But each individual team coach, are those parent volunteers? Are those a coach that puts together a team? How do you have it organized and structured in that way?
Okay, so our league, you sign up by teams.
Okay.
So the local elementary school's got maybe a third grade team, 2 fourth, 2 fifth, whatever. Most of our coaches, not all, most of them are parent coaches. We have some former players. We have some community members that have no kids involved that coach and doing a phenomenal job. But like I said, a majority of them are parents, and they're from our side of town. So, they've either played for us here at the high school. We know them. We've been around for a long time here. So it's a very good relationship.
Yeah, I think when you have good people that and that you've had, as a part of your program, it makes it stronger and strengthens it so that you can provide the kind of experience like you're describing. One of the things that I always like to say, and that I'll use this when I talk to parents before and after our camps or during the things that we do, is I always tell them that with whatever we do, we have 3 goals. 1, we want your kid to have fun, which you talked about. Number 2, we want your kid to learn something about the game of basketball, which you talked about. And then number 3, we want the experience to be one that was positive so that when the kid leaves, they want to come back and do more basketball. And that might be come back and do another one of our camps or do another one of our trainings. Or it might just be that the kid really likes basketball and now they want to go shoot out in their driveway or they want to go down the basement and dribble the ball. And so that's one of the things that, especially on the youth level, that I try to get across to parents is when you go to a program, whether it's one of ours or it's somebody else's, those are the 3 things that you should be looking for. Is your kid having fun? Is your kid learning something about the game? And when they're done, do they want to play more basketball, or are they turned off like you just described, where they come home and are like, oh, I don't want to have to go back to that. And so that's really what we try to do. And it sounds like that's the same thing that you're trying to accomplish there with your league, which obviously you have based on the success of the numbers and what you've been able to put together over the last 27 years or so.
That screamer and yeller in 3rd and 4th grade, we don't invite them back the next year.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And there's always 1 or 2 of those in whatever league you're in. You see all kinds of crazy different things. So I was telling somebody the other day, my daughter's team, we've seen a new defense in the last couple games of our season, where, now again, keep in mind this is 3rd and 4th grade basketball, where the new defense is, and I don't know who came up with this. It's a great idea, but whoever your best player is, you station your best player at half court, and they just pick up whoever dribbles the ball up the court. Doesn't matter who it is. Your best player who can steal the ball just stands at half court and tries to steal the ball from whatever girl brings it up.
Oh,
and I'm like, I'm looking at these coaches. I'm like, what are you teaching your kids about how to play the game? And it's amazing some of the things that you see in the youth basketball level by people who are focused solely on trying to win a game as opposed to trying to teach
Got to
kids.
develop a press breaker for that, Mike.
Yeah, I need a press break, and you need a 2-guard front so we can go the guard-to-guard pass and
Set a screen.
all that good stuff. So it's just it's amazing what's out there. It really is.
You literally see everything in youth basketball, good and bad. You see everything.
No question. All right, so let's jump backwards in time here and go back to when you were finishing up your playing career. Did you always know that you wanted to be a coach? And since you said that you were more of a football guy, how did you end up? Obviously, your father was a high school basketball coach, so that was something that was in your background. But why not football? And what made you want to be a coach in the first place?
Well, I think growing up with my dad being a coach, that whole coaching teaching deal was kind of he did not force it onto us, not at all. But that was something we were around every day, and it was fun to be around sports. And so that was a path that myself and all my brothers took, the teacher coach path. I was more of a football guy in the family. Played a lot of football. Actually, when I graduated, played college football Division II level. When I graduated, I went to the University of Iowa as a football GA with Hayden Fry.
Wow.
Late '80s, Iowa football. So I was there during the Iowa heyday. It's going good now, but back in the late '80s, it was really going. I was around some incredible college football coaches there. Learned a ton. I thought I was going to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Well, now I'm at East High in Sioux City. So
Well,
You clapper, man.
You could have taken over for Tom Landry. We would have vouched for it. Come on.
But no, so I was around an incredible football experience. Kind of came back to my hometown. I had grand visions of being the football coach at the high school here where I played and played under a legend. And things didn't quite work out that way. And I went the basketball route and became an assistant then. From my brother took my dad's spot. So how about this for a crazy stat? Since 1974, my dad, my brother, or me has been the head coach here at East High.
Wow, that's incredible.
So we get a lot of we get some flack for it. I get it, but there's been some crazy success because of the great kids and parents we've had, and people the community's bought in, and so it's been a very good deal. But I was an assistant for 16 years. I learned more than still 16 years than I probably ever will in my life, and I would highly encourage people that have a little bit of an ego that think I can only be a head coach. Go be an assistant for a while. You'll learn a lot, and guess what? The heat's not on you.
That's very true.
Go learn. As young coaches, everybody wants to be. I'm the head coach. Well, it's easier said than done. And a lot of times when younger people become head coaches, they haven't been through the battles. They haven't seen everything. And when you're an assistant for 16 years, you've seen quite a bit, and you learned how to handle things, good and bad. And so then when you become the head coach, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's a lot easier when you've been through it and seen other people deal with things. Learn how to and how not to do things.
Absolutely. All right, so 2 questions. The first question goes back to your time as a football GA. What's 1 or 2 things that you remember from that time? Obviously a different sport, but things that you took away from that experience that ended up making you a better basketball coach because of what you learned there as part of the football program at Iowa?
Organization. Hayden Fry was an incredibly organized person. The assistant coaches at that time, the Stoops brothers were there. Barry Alvarez was there. Bill Schneider was there. Dan McCarney, Kirk Ferentz. These are college football people now. And the organization was so, just every detail was cut to a T. There were no cutting corners. You did things right. They were expected to be done right. And that was the standard. There were no, kind of do this half speed, half done. You did it right. So the organization of coaching was something I definitely learned.
Yeah, I think if you look at the college level, because college coaches are able to do things full time as opposed to the high school coach who, maybe has another job or is teaching in a lot of cases, which probably isn't as prevalent as it used to be. But regardless, I think college coaches, the level of organization and detail that they can boil things down to because they have that time, I could see where as someone who eventually is a high school coach, that being able to experience that level of organization and that level of coaching initially in your career would have been tremendously valuable to you as you continue to move forward and go back into the high school ranks?
The second thing was how hard the players and the coaches worked. I mean, these are incredibly talented athletes, as we all know. Division I athletes they're off the chart talented, but how hard they worked in the season and in the off season, and how hard they were pushed by the coaches. I mean, as a young coach, you're thinking, oh, these guys are just talented. They practice and show up on Saturday and they win, and that's how it works. No, that's not how it works. These guys are working hard every day. I mean, whether it be in the weight room, whether it be in the film room, whether it be on the practice field, whatever it was work. There were no days off. I mean, you showed up to work.
How did they get buy-in? So that's one of the things that always interests me is, there's obviously a lot of different methods that coaches use in terms of motivation and getting kids on board so that everybody's on the same page. What do you recall from your time there about how Coach Fry and his assistants got the team to buy into the program? What was the culture like there?
Oh, it was incredible. At that time, Iowa football was winning a lot. Bowl games, 9 out of 10 years. I mean, the whole deal. So I think, and just pushing that, you know what, you want to keep working, you want to play on Sunday, keep working. Then there'd be guys coming back in the off season, the NFL guys that were out there would always come back and work out in Iowa City, and those guys were always around. So you see guys that you might have played with or might be a little older that you knew of, and they've got the nice car and they've got the fancy stuff, and they're there working out in the same weight room you are. And it was always reminded, you want to be like those guys, you got to work.
Yeah, I think that is something that any player who's out there listening, it goes to the fact that success doesn't just happen because you're talented. It doesn't just happen because of what your name is. It doesn't just happen because somebody rolls the balls out and we start playing. Anytime you're going to have success, and it doesn't matter if you're talking about success at the high school freshman level, you're talking about success at the Division I college level, you're talking about success at the highest levels of the game, whether it be the NFL or the NBA. In order to get to those levels, guys have to work extremely hard in order to have success. And I think that's a great lesson for anybody to learn. And for you as a young coach, I'm sure that was a tremendous lesson.
Registration is now open at www.headstartbasketball.com for this summer's Head Start basketball camps. We'll be hosting camps this summer in Strongsville, Westlake, Avon Lake, Oberlin, Brunswick, Highland Heights, Mentor, and Hudson. At Head Start Basketball, we care deeply about making a positive impact on the lives of young basketball players, both on and off the court. It's through building strong relationships with our players, parents, and coaching staff that we are able to use the game of basketball to enrich the lives of those we interact with, both inside and outside of our organization. We believe that our attention to detail, our growth mindset, and our commitment to lifelong learning allows us to help our players achieve their fullest potential. We are passionately committed to providing players, parents, and coaches with everything they need to reach their goals. These core values run through everything we do. Check out our website, www.headstartbasketball.com, and discover why you should attend a Head Start basketball camp this summer. Hope to see you there.
You come back from that experience, and now you get an opportunity to be an assistant coach. What was the dynamics like with you and your brother as head coach and assistant coach?
It was good cop, bad cop. My brother is a hardline guy, incredibly knowledgeable of the game of basketball. He basically took our program at East High and made it what it is today, which is I think it's outstanding. We've since 2000 in Iowa, you play 21 games a year. That's all they give us is 21. And since the year 2000, we've averaged 19 wins a year. We just got our 21st win last night and qualified for the state tournament. But we've had incredible success just with, like I said, with a culture of, you know what, we're going to work hard. We're going to have fun. The community buys in, parents buy in. We have very little, I'm not stupid enough to think there's not a parent that's mad about a playing time because that's life. But for the most part, our parents buy in. But myself and my brother, who is now on the Creighton staff, he left to go to Creighton, and I got the head job. But he, he was a hardline guy. I mean, we practiced long, we practiced hard, and we, it was bringing it. But that's what it took at that time to get the program where it is today. I'm not going to lie. When I got the program, it was pretty good, and I've been lucky enough with great assistants and players to keep it going.
What did you like most about your time as an assistant? What was the most satisfying piece of being an assistant coach?
To see those guys that aren't the quote superstars get their chance and succeed. So you might have had a guy as a freshman that came in, he's 6'4", his knees come together, he doesn't run well, and you do post drills and you do wing drills and you just do drills, and all of a sudden as a junior he's getting some time later in the year, and a senior he's starting, he becomes all conference and does great things. That I get total enjoyment out of that. The kid that no one ever thought was going to do anything when he did it. And we've all had them, and every program in the country has them. Don't forget about that freshman or sophomore kid that's not quite there. Hang in there, encourage them, make them work. A lot of times they get there.
Yeah, that's something you can do as an assistant that, a lot of times as the head coach, you obviously have to oversee the entire team and the program.
Correct.
And you may be focused on, your top 7 or 8 guys. And so as an assistant, that's one of the things that you can do is put your arm around one of those kids who maybe hasn't quite blossomed yet, but you can see that potential is there, and you can plant the seed for a kid that eventually, as they mature, whether that's physically mature or just, mature mentally and are ready to perform at a higher level, to be able to put in time with those kids. I know that when I was an assistant, that was something that was tremendously satisfying for me, is just to be able to give some time to those kids who, not necessarily overlooked by the head coach is the wrong way to put it, but just the coach isn't as focused in on those kids who aren't going to contribute to winning at the varsity level. And so by putting in that time, you're helping to develop a kid and building that relationship, and again, ultimately helping the kid to succeed, not just on the basketball court, but in the game of life as well.
And now I got, like I said, I got 11 assistant coaches in our system, and now, it's those guys, a lot of those guys are, and I got a couple of younger guys that are go-getters, and they're the ones that are working with that kid. And every once in a while they say, hey, you know what, don't forget about him. Don't forget about him. Let's get him a little more time in the JV game, see what he can do. Let's get him, 2 minutes in a varsity game and see how he reacts and those type of things. So it's rewarding. Like I said, everybody knows who the star is. The star is going to get his attention. He's going to get his time. He's going to get his due. But it's that other kid that kind of people have maybe forgotten about, that when they get their time and they succeed, that's awesome.
So that's the most satisfying thing. What did you find to be the most challenging part of being an assistant?
Thinking you had all the answers, and I was one of those guys. I mean, I thought I knew everything, and thinking, hey, if we did it this way, it'd work better than the way we're doing it, and basically being told no. That's not how we're going to do it.
Exactly. You're the idea man, not the execution man.
Exactly right. Because if it didn't work, it was on the head coach. It wasn't on me. So, and I get that whole deal. I mean, as assistants, I think assistants should throw out ideas. Throw 10 things against the board, and one of them is going to stick. If you have all yes men on your staff, you're never going to be the best staff you can be. Last night we had our sub-state game, the game to go to state. There was a time in the middle of the game, it was close, and we had a full-fledged disagreement going on. It was a very, we all get along great. That's the best part about our staff. But during the game, how we were going to play this situation, and if everyone just sat there and said, okay, that's what we're going to do, then that's give your opinion. What are we going to do? That's when it works.
Yeah, I think you have to have that healthy disagreement behind closed doors. When you're in the coach's office, you have to have those tough discussions. And then when you leave that coach's office, then that's when it's time for the players to be able to see that united front and make sure everybody's on the same page. And I think the best staffs, whether it's the high school level, college level, that's how they go about it. The debate takes place behind closed doors, and then we present that united front when we come out and, we're talking to our players. What do you see as a head coach? What are some things that you look for? What are traits that you look for that you would say make for a good assistant coach? Or what are some things that you would have done as an assistant to make your head coach's life easier?
I tell you, you're looking for guys that are number one. They're all in. They want to be part of it. They want to work kids in the summertime, in the fall. If you need the gym opened up, I have no problem doing it, but they'll run over and do it. They'll get the gun out, the shooting machine out, those type of things. They're not too. Last night, because in the playoffs in Iowa, you can only suit up so many and have so many on your bench and all those fancy rules. So last night we had, 3 of our assistant coaches who are great. They're keeping stats on the bench, things that normally kids do, or kids that aren't suited up or are JV guys. So you don't be afraid to be the other guy, but be willing to work. The worst assistants in the world are the ones that think they have all the answers and they don't want to work hard.
So you're talking about the state and how there's wonky rules and whatnot. How many teams qualify for the states in Iowa? And can you just kind of explain how that process works out?
Yep. Every team in the state actually gets into the playoffs, so into the district tournament. So you're set up by regions or where you're located, and you're in a class system. So in Iowa, we've got 4 classes, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A. 4A is the largest one. That's the class that we're in. And then you play it out. 8 teams make the state tournament in each class. So you're 1 of 8. When you get down to Des Moines state tournament, you're 1 of 8. And all classes get 8 teams in. And they all go to Des Moines. Actually, it's next week, and it's a week-long tournament, and we come up with 4 champions. Years ago, we had a 1-class system. I know some states still do that, but we are a 4-class system. So the smaller schools, they're 1A. Biggest schools are 4A.
So I know you and I talked about it on the phone call earlier, and so you get to win 3 games to get your state title, and you're down there in Des Moines, and you talked a little bit about your team, and you felt like you'd have to play really well to get that state title this year, right?
Correct. We're 21-1. We got a good team. We got an athletic team. We got the school's all-time leading scorer, which is actually my nephew. He's a shooter, shooting threes.
Wait, do you have any kids on the team that aren't part of your family? The whole staff is your family?
Well,
all the players are your family?
Coach. My son's an assistant coach. My other brother's son-in-law is an assistant coach. we're like a bunch of inbreeds out here.
You guys have cornered the market out there. Nobody from outside of Sioux City is ever going to move there and want to further their coaching career.
We've been accused many times by many people in our area. It's kind of like a mafia setup, but there you go. It is what it is. But but if you keep your relatives close, things they're normally with you. So absolutely. We got a great situation. We really do. Like I said, my nephew became the all-time leading scorer here a week ago at a school that has produced many Division I guys. So we got a good deal. But no, we go to Des Moines. There's 8 teams. 3 teams get you a championship. We have an athletic team. Our field this year in Iowa it's a solid field, and there's probably 7 of the 8 teams in the big class that could win it. 6 for sure. So you got to play well. Like I told our guys today, if we play well, we got a chance. If we play bad, we're going to lose. It's a simple game.
Have you played any of the teams that are left or no?
No. We are way over in western Iowa. Sioux City, where I live, most of it's in Iowa. North Sioux City's in South Dakota, and South Sioux City's in Nebraska. We're right on the river. So we're in 3 states here in one town. Wow. So we play, obviously, Nebraska schools. We play South Dakota schools. We play a lot of Iowa schools. We just don't get over to Des Moines, Cedar Rapids, Davenport. We don't get over that far. So
that makes it fun when you play in a tournament and you're not playing the same teams that you see all the time.
Correct. No, I like it. Like I said, we see totally different people, totally different styles of game. There's some outstanding individual players. There's some outstanding, the kid that's coming your way, DJ Carton, is going to Ohio State. He got beat last night in the game to go to state, and he's a tremendous player, by the way. We played against him in the state tournament 2 years ago. But there's some other D1 kids, a lot of college players in Iowa. We don't have the marquee LeBrons of the world, but we got Iowa basketball is better than people think for the size that we are.
How do you go about preparing your team for the state tournament? Is there anything that you do traditionally that, every year you're like, okay, these are some of the things that we have to focus on? Do you try to keep everything the same as you've been during the regular season? How does your approach differ or stay the same, heading into this state tournament week?
Yeah, we do a lot of things the same. We're into a routine. Like I said, we found out who we played today. We've already got 3 or 4 videos on them. Our assistants are breaking those down as we speak. We always take today off, the day after the sub-state game. We'll come back tomorrow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday with practice, and then we'll practice Monday morning and then take off for Des Moines.
Gotcha. So it's not really you kind of have since you've done it multiple times, you kind of have your system down,
Yep.
and the kids know what to expect. That's good. I want to
Yep.
jump back to when you transitioned from an assistant to taking over the program, and what that transition was like, and talk a little bit about what your biggest challenge was going from a longtime assistant in the program to taking over and becoming the head man. And like we talked about earlier, now all those decisions are yours, and all the heat was yours as well.
That's exactly right. What I worried about most, I mean, we had a good thing going. My first year, there were some high expectations with the senior class, with the kids. I mean, everybody said, "Oh, those guys are going to be good. They're going to be good." Well, as you well know, sometimes it doesn't always happen. So, coming in, I wasn't new to the program, but I was new as the head coach. And you just think, you know what, we just keep doing what we're doing. Don't change a lot of things. Don't do drastic changes. And that first year, we made it to the state championship game, and we got beat in the title game. So that, I would call that a successful season. That we ended up being 21-4. The next year we came back with most of those guys gone and went 22-2. So then, you kind of going like, okay, you belong. You're doing things right. And we've had great success ever since. Like I said, we've averaged 19 wins a year in a state where you only get 21 games since 2000. So for 19 years, that the success rate has been very good. Not because of me, but because of the kids and the assistants and the parents and everybody else.
So what do you hang your hat on as a program? If somebody's going to describe your program in one sentence or a couple of key pillars, what are the things that you want Sioux City East to be known for?
I think the trendy word nowadays is our culture. I believe we treat kids right. We have excellent facilities. We have the best gear you can buy. We got a little Nike deal going on where kids think that's cool, and it is cool. Our locker room, 2 or 3 years ago, I don't remember. I went out and raised $30,000 for a locker room, and our locker room is every bit as good as half the Division I schools. We got 2 leather couches and 2 60-inch screens with the video games and big open lockers. And
you got the free Gatorade in the barber shop.
We got the free Gatorade. No, time out. I got to be correct. We got free Powerade.
All right, there you go.
Oh,
yeah, you got to
brand.
get the plug on.
No,
I like it, Raz. I like it.
We're branded out big time.
Like it.
So, but we've got a lot of community people that have bought in, and I believe the kids, when they see these facilities, they're going like, whoa. When you have something nice for them, what we're asking for in return is hard work, and we get it. Like I said, we got a big jumbotron deal in the gym and shows all the stuff, and all these little things that people might not think matter, they matter. When kids believe they're big time, we're in return, just give us hard work.
So obviously your family has been entrenched there in Sioux City for a long time, but how do you engage the greater community with your basketball program? How do you get those people who may not have kids in the system, who may not have kids that play on the team? How do you engage those people in your program to garner the kind of support, whether it's financially or just coming to the game to support the team? How do you make that happen?
I tell you what, and this is whether it's basketball, football, pro, college, high school, youth, everybody likes a winner. We've been very successful, like I said, for close to 20 years. I think our gym holds 2,500, and I think this year our average attendance was probably 2,200 for high school. I mean, it's an event on Friday night or Tuesdays and Fridays. People show up. Like I said, since '74, my dad, my brother, and me have been there, and now I've got kids of guys that played for my dad or even my brother in his early days that now their kids are playing. It's kind of like everybody. My mother, 70, whatever she is, 75, 6, 7 years old, comes to every game, home and away, and she's yelling at the refs just like I am. So and everybody knows it. I mean, it's who we are in town. I think there's a respect factor. I also think there's a factor of, you know what, you're either with us or against us. And I get it. That's society. If you're on our side of town, you're with us for the most part. If you're on the other side of town, you're not with us. So
Right.
I get it.
Hey, I just want to make sure you said you like to yell at the refs. Be careful. You know what happened to that coach, Iowa's coach the other day, right? Did you see that?
I just spoke with him myself, and I'm actually a friend of his. And I tell you what, don't believe everything you hear about him. I mean, his incident was bad. It was wrong. But I will tell you this: I am a friend of Coach McCaffrey. When off the court, he is an incredible guy. He's a genuine guy and a good guy. Does he get a little fired up once in a while? Absolutely, he does. But too many people judge him what they see on TV.
Yeah, it's easy to judge the public persona sometimes and not see the things that go on behind the scenes. And that's one of the biggest, I think, misconceptions about coaches that are out there is a lot of times, you see the highlights, you see this, you see, something that happens and you don't see all the behind the scenes stuff of the good things that particular coach is doing with their players and their kids and how they teach the game and the kind of culture that they built. And so, but we all know we live in a media, society where something comes out immediately, especially now with whether it's Twitter or Facebook or wherever, and it's immediate. And the reaction is immediate. And the way you get attention is by being on the extreme end of a reaction, no matter how
I've had guys play for him that absolutely love him. In the state of Iowa today, all the reaction to his suspension and all that, tons of former players, I mean tons, not one or two, tons have come out on social media saying, you know what, I support him 100%. He's our guy, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. Again, if you're a coach and you've had impact on your players, it doesn't surprise me that guys have come out in support of him just the way they would any other coach who has made a positive impact on them and what they do. So that goes to my next question, which is when a kid is involved in your program and then they leave and it's 10 years down the road and somebody comes up to him and asks them, what did Coach Vanderloo teach you, not just about basketball, but about life? What are some of the maybe one or two things that you try to impart to your kids beyond the X's and O's of basketball? What do you try to instill in them that can benefit them for the rest of their life?
Be a good person. Number one, I played for an old school legendary football coach here in Iowa that he taught us more about life than he did about football. And we had great football here in where I'm from. Every day you were instructed to treat your girlfriend right, your mother right, all women with respect. You treat your peers with respect, teachers and administrators, police. Everything's about respect. Treat your elders with respect. You don't always have to agree with them, but you still treat them with respect. We got too many kids nowadays that just have their own, this is bull. I don't got to listen to this, whatever. No, it comes down to a nationwide respect issue. And I think coaches and teachers, I'm on it all the time about you treat your teachers right. You tell them they're doing a good job. You thank them for teaching you. You tell your mother you love them. You treat women right. And I tell them every time you ever put your hands on a woman, I am coming after you. I don't care if it's tomorrow or 10 years from tomorrow.
Yeah,
I am
absolutely.
coming after you. So, be a good person is better than being a good player.
Yeah, I think that's the key. And that's one of the things that I try to impart to parents a lot of times when I'm interacting with them on whatever level through one of my programs is that, whatever you're doing has to be more than just basketball. There has to be some component of using the game as a vehicle to teach those kinds of life lessons so that we end up with better people. And ultimately, no matter what level of basketball a kid gets to, whether they top out as a middle school player or they end up playing high school basketball or they're fortunate enough to go on and play in college, regardless of what level they get to, you still as a parent, as a coach, want them to turn out to be a good citizen. And that's something that I think all coaches, I think we're better at it today than we've ever been because there's such a widespread knowledge and just that's something that people are looking for. And so I think that coaches today probably do a better job of that, or at least focusing on it and thinking about it. Whereas a coach maybe 30 years ago was just, my job's, I'm here to win games. And, I'm not really teaching things beyond the game. Whereas I think now a lot of coaches are more focused on some of those character and leadership type skills and life skills than coaches were in the past.
100%. I've told many people this with our program. I'm more the Dr. Phil of East High basketball. I'm not looking for some fancy secret play to draw. I'm more talking to you at practice about how was your school day? Did you get your homework done? When's your next test? Have you got your financial aid papers filled out for next year? How's your mother? Those things. It's constant communication with them. It's positive things, and it's a reminder, do the right thing.
Yeah, those relationships I think are key. When you can build relationships with kids, then you have an opportunity, like we talked about earlier in the podcast. You mentioned that one of the things that you try to build your program on is hard work. And I think when you have relationships with kids and they know that you care about them as more than just a transactional relationship between a coach and a player and what can I get out of you on the basketball court, when the kid knows you care about them, it allows you to push that kid harder and get more out of them. Would you agree with that statement?
100%. I think the relationship part of coaching is bigger than people envision. We've got kids from all walks of life, every imaginable walk, and you know what? You can't treat everybody the same, but you have to treat them fairly. And you can deal with some kids differently than others. Some kids you can give them a good butt chewing and give it to them. Some kids you just got to work with them a little bit. But at the end of the day, you want them all doing the same thing. Do what's right. Be a good person. Be a good student. Be a good player.
So how do you build that foundation with the kids that are on their way up to your program? Obviously, your youth league allows you to have an impact on some of the kids that are going to eventually be part of your program. Is there anything else that you do to engage the younger players in your community to get them looking forward to the opportunity to play for you when they get to the high school level?
It's funny you asked. Just on Monday night, I had one of our youth league coaches said, he sent me a text, a guy that I know, sent me a text, said, hey, could you come talk to our team for 10 or 15 minutes tonight if you could? This is Monday night. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I went down there, and I start talking as you guys are figuring out, and I can go forever.
You didn't go for 10 minutes?
It went a little longer than 10. But I don't think honest to God, don't think I spent 1 second talking about basketball. I talked about, doing the right thing, working hard, respect your coaches, respect your teachers, respect at home. Always do the right thing. It's easy to do the wrong thing anymore. Our society is crazy. There's so many left turns you can take for not good. Take the right turn. Go this way. You know what? If you do the right thing and you work hard, good things are going to happen, whether it's in school, at home, or on a team, football, basketball, baseball, whatever you're doing. Do the right thing. Just work hard. You know what? When a coach tells you to run, run. If he tells you to screen, and do it right. Work hard. We're in a world of questioning everything. Why? How come? That's dumb. Well, no, it's not. Have trust in your people above you, whether it's a teacher, a coach, or a parent. And trust they're teaching you the right thing, and then get her done.
Yeah, and they want to help you to make good decisions. I try to emphasize that with both my players and the kids that I teach at school, is to make good decisions. And if you make a series of good decisions, you usually get a good outcome. And that could be just a good outcome in that particular class. It could be a good outcome for the day. It could be a good outcome for a semester. It could be a good outcome for life. If you string together enough good decisions, you're going to end up with something good. And if you string together enough bad decisions, you're usually going to get a bad outcome. And I think that that's something that, I hear coming through from you, is trying to influence your kids to make good decisions on the basketball court and make good decisions off the basketball court. And when you do that, then as a coach that you're having the kind of impact that you want to have.
I like I said, we've got all kinds, and our kids, they've from early age, they buy in. But if I hear something in the community or from a teacher, I don't, a lot of coaches don't want to confront kids anymore because mom and dad, they go crazy and there's an issue. It turns into a bad situation. I've been around a long time, and I've been lucky enough to see a lot of great things. I call them the second I hear something. I don't care if they're in third period class. I call them. What's this I hear? What's going on here? And it's amazing how many times they're like, yeah, you're right, my bad. I said, we'll talk at practice about it. So they come to practice, then you're face to face and says, did what I hear is correct? Well, yeah, well, what's going on? I mean, we're not doing this. Let them know that And it's amazing how many times they will look you in the eye and say, that's my fault. That's totally my fault. And to get a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid to look at an adult in the eye and say, that's my fault. That's something nowadays that doesn't happen enough.
Yeah, I think that goes to relationships and truth telling. And too often in life, we're in situations where people don't want to have those difficult conversations. They don't want to tell somebody the truth because they don't want to hurt their feelings, or they don't want to damage the relationship, or whatever reasons they might have. But I think ultimately we all know as coaches that when you have the opportunity to have a conversation, you tell a player, a parent, another coach the truth, you ultimately get a better result than you do when you try to sugarcoat something or kind of dodge around it and not really say what you
Yep.
mean. In the long run, getting a hard truth out in front of somebody makes the relationship stronger and ultimately improves and helps the outcome for the player and for you as the coach in your program.
I mean, it's a natural reaction for a young man or girl to be mad at you if you call them on something. It's natural. But it's amazing how the next day, 2 days later, maybe it's 5 years later, they come back and say, hey, remember that time? Yeah, he goes, oh, that was my fault. That was totally on me. And that happens more than you think if you have great relationships.
Yeah, that's the kind of impact that you want to have as a coach. Let's jump to your experiences with USA Basketball and talk a little bit about how you first got involved with USA Basketball, and then we'll jump into what it is that you're doing now with them.
Okay. Don Showalter, as all you guys know, I don't know, gave me a call a year and a half, 2 years ago, asked me if I wanted to get involved with some stuff. And I thought, well, wow, what an opportunity. I mean, this is USA Basketball. And so I was very, very happy and privileged to do that. I've spoken at several of their Nike USA Basketball coaching academies. I've done some other work for Don and for USA, worked at a regional camp. USA Basketball is growing yearly, maybe daily, but it's growing and growing, and it's a positive growth. There's a lot of great things coming out and more to come. People will see here in the next couple months. So a year ago, they said, you four, there's four of us from all parts of the country. They said, you four, would you be interested in doing some, more permanent stuff for us? I'm like, what, why wouldn't you? Absolutely. It's an honor. So we've done a ton of training last year, on site, on the phone, on the computer, on you name it, with stuff. And now just recently have become maybe a bigger role. We are regional coordinators for USA Basketball. There's four of us. And we're just kind of on call with them. Actually, I was on a call today with them, a conference call, some things. We're just we're promoting basketball, promoting USA Basketball. So it's all positive. There's good things to come, and I think the things that USA supports are awesome. People need to visit that website. There's tons and tons of things on there that can make you a better coach, better person, better player. And there's definitely more opportunities popping up with USA for kids of all ages. I think when in the past, when you heard the word USA Basketball, you thought about the Olympic team, which is obviously part of it. But we're dealing more with the younger kids. That's what we're dealing with, and promoting basketball and promoting the right way and getting coaches licensed and all those things.
Yeah, there's a lot of great resources on the USA Basketball website, without question, that a lot of them are free. And then there's a lot of them that also, when you do get your USA Basketball coaching license, that you then have access to even more resources. And going back to the beginning of our conversation, that's something that if you're a youth coach, or you're somebody who's looking to grow, as a young coach, or somebody that even as an older coach who has experience, there's just a lot of good resources out there from a lot of great people who are involved with USA Basketball. So if anyone's out there listening and hasn't had a chance to go and check out the USA Basketball website, I'd highly recommend that. If we think about, Raz, going back to what you said about talking at the coach academies, what were one or two of your topics that you've talked about at the coach academies?
One of them was about our own program here at East High. It was the 10 best things we do. It was, I've done several talks on that. It's not all USA, but it was all different things at some camps and clinics, and just, talking about our program, what we do, how we do it, kind of what we've been talking about for an hour or so. And I enjoy talking about it. It comes naturally. I myself enjoy talking, period. But to be able to interact with other coaches and say, here's what we do. I'm not saying it's right, but here's what we do. We've had a lot of success with it. And just some ideas. If you can go to a coaching clinic and just pick up 1 or 2 ideas, I think it's a plus. Regardless who's speaking, boys coach, girls coach, college coach, pro coach, whatever, just pick up 1 or 2 little things. You don't need to pick up 25 things. Just get 1 or 2 and take them back to where you are and go, I'm going to implement this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. So that's one of the things I've spoken about. Another one was the youth basketball world, or the world we're in. Kind of the same things we talked about here. Teach the coaches, coach the coaches, because those are the ones that are actually interacting with the kids on a weekly basis. Make sure the kids are having fun. That's so important at a young age, because if it's not fun, they're going to find something that is fun, whether it be video games or maybe another sport or whatever. Encourage kids to play all sports. So it's I enjoy doing it. Like I said, it comes natural to me. I love promoting the game. I like the travel involved and all those things. So it's been a very positive experience.
Yeah, our experience with USA basketball has been great. Obviously, we had Coach Showalter come on, and we had Coach Berube come on as well from the women's side of the game. And there's just so much, I think, that as USA basketball continues to grow and it continues to become more front of mind for the public, which I think is the direction that they're headed, is to try to really get what they're trying to do in front of more of the youth coaches, youth parents, to try to educate them on what the system looks like now, what it should look like, how we can do it better. I think the future for USA basketball is very, very bright, and I think it's going to continue to grow. And I hope that their impact starts to trickle down to some of the youth organizations that we have out there, so we can kind of take control of the situation and make sure that, just like we've talked about all night, that kids are getting exposed to positive experiences in the game and not being exposed to some of the seedier underbelly that we sometimes unfortunately get a chance to experience when we're out there in the in the wild west of youth basketball.
Oh boy. But I've seen all sides, so I hear you. But I think, if, like I said, that the USA stuff, the website's got great resources on there. People, if you're just a basketball person and you got some time, just get on the website and click on the categories and look around. The fact that the coach's certification licensing program, that background check is huge nowadays with all the crazy people in the world. If I know for a fact that the person coaching my son or daughter, is certified, they've had a background check, I feel definitely better about it. So those are all definitely positives. The player development model is on there. There's just so many things curriculum wise that are on there. Even if you're a PE teacher out there and a coach, there's a basketball curriculum USA supports that's on there. There's tons of things. You just kind of get on there and take some time and start clicking, and you're going to find things like, oh my gosh, I didn't know they had this on here. Then you find something else. So there's tons of resources on there.
Yeah, there absolutely is. And for anybody who's out there, you definitely want to go on USA Basketball, their website, and check it out, because you're going to find a bunch of stuff that's going to really help you. Raz, before we get out of here, we want to give you an opportunity to share your contact information with people, so anyone who might want to reach out to you can go ahead and do that. And also, if there's anything that we didn't touch on during our hour or so tonight, you can go ahead and give your parting shot after you share your contact information.
Yep. Contact information, Ras Vanderloo, R-A-S. It's a long story. My name is actually Rick, but I go by Raz. I have for my whole life. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother hour and a half someday. Ras Vanderloo. I'm on all the social medias. I'm at Coach Raz, COACHRAS on Twitter. I have Facebook, Ras Vanderloo. I have an email. It's a long one. It's kind of like my last name, VANDERR, the number 1, at live.SiouxCitySchools.com. It's SIOUXCITY schools.com. You can reach out to me any way you want. Feel free, day or night. I return all emails. I answer Twitter, direct messages, all the above. I'm here to help any way I can. I think people just need to promote the game. It's an awesome game. It's a great game. There's great people involved. The horror stories you hear about craziness, that's 1% of what's going on. There's 99% good. Get kids involved, get them off the street, keep them out of trouble, get them playing basketball. I think like I said, it's an awesome game and it's fun. And, there's a lot of interest in our country about it. So keep
Absolutely.
that baby rolling.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Raz, we can't thank you enough for jumping on the podcast with us tonight. And to everyone out there, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
Head Start Basketball's Player Development Academy offers Cleveland area players a unique opportunity to improve their basketball skills. Regardless of a player's age, skill level, or position, training with Head Start Basketball will elevate your game to the next level. Do you want to improve your ball handling, become a better shooter, or develop into a more skilled, confident player? Our Academy classes offer training that's designed to do just that. Our training sessions are innovative and will have you learning skills that are transferable to actual games. We have 4 different class skill levels for boys and girls, ages 4 and up. All Player Development Academy classes will be held at the Strongsville Recreation Center. For more information or to get registered, please visit www.headstartbasketball.com.
Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, presented by Head Start Basketball.